Here's something your bank will never tell you. The average Australian now needs 11 years to save a 20% deposit on a median-priced home. 11 years. That's not saving for a house, that's saving through a career, a relationship, probably a kid, maybe two. And by the time you've actually done it, the median price has gone up again. Right now, as I'm recording this, Australia's national median dwelling value sits at approximately $910,000. And yet, in Sydney and Melbourne, the two biggest markets in the country, prices are already heading south. Sydney is forecast to finish 2026 down 0.7%. Melbourne down 1.7%. So is this the crash everyone's been waiting for? Or is it a trap? A brief dip that sucks in first home buyers right before things get worse? In today's video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what the data says, who it helps, who it hurts, and the one number that completely changes how you should be thinking about buying your first home right now. Let's anchor this in something real. According to CoreLogic's April 2025 housing chart pack, Australian home values have risen 39.1% in just 5 years. That's $230,000 added to the median price in 5 years. By comparison, the same 5-year run in the early 2000s added about $140,000. In real dollar terms, this recent boom was worse. The price-to-income ratio, that's how many years of gross income it takes to buy a median home, hit a record high of 8 times at the end of 2024. Up from 4.6 times back in 2001. You're literally working twice as hard for the same dream your parents had. And the cash rate? The RBA cut rates 3 times through 2025 February, May, and August, which gave buyers a brief exhale. But as of early 2026, those cuts have been fully reversed. The RBA has since hiked back up to 4.35%. And markets are pricing in the possibility of another increase before the year's out. Now meet Jordan. Jordan is 29, lives in Brisbane, earns $105,000 a year working in IT. He's been saving for 3 years. Got about $62,000 in his account right now. He thought rate cuts meant the timing was finally right. He started going to open homes in February. He's been outbid 4 times already, twice by investors, twice by owner-occupiers who've sold elsewhere and are cashed up. Jordan is not a fictional cautionary tale. Jordan is the median first home buyer in Australia in 2026. And the system that's supposed to help him? It's more complicated and more contradictory than it's ever been. This video is going to tell Jordan and you what's actually happening and what the smart play looks like right now. Point 1. The Great Rate Reversal. Why 2026 is not what buyers expected. Cast your mind back to early 2025. The mood was cautiously optimistic. The RBA made its first rate cut since 2020 in February. Then another in May. Then another in August. 3 cuts, 75 basis points total. Mortgage brokers were busy. Auction clearance rates climbed. For a minute there, it felt like the property market was opening back up. It didn't last. By February 2026, the RBA reversed course and hiked by 25 basis points. Then again in March, then again in May. We're right back to 4.35%, exactly where we were before the cuts started. The ANZ Roy Morgan Consumer Confidence Index recently hit its lowest reading since the index started in 1973. Let that sink in. What spooked the RBA? A combination of sticky inflation and global uncertainty, particularly escalating tensions in the Middle East, pushing oil prices higher and feeding through to cost pressures here at home. So, what does this mean for you as a buyer? If you stretched your borrowing in late 2025 when rates were lower, you're now paying more. And if you haven't bought yet, you're borrowing less than you could 6 months ago. Every 0.25% rate rise on a $700,000 loan adds roughly $110 per month to your repayments. ANZ Research has already cut its 2026 capital city price growth forecast from 4.8% down to 2.8%. Sydney is tipped to finish the year down 0.7%. Melbourne down 1.7%. Properties in the top quartile of both those markets have declined for 5 consecutive months running. Here's the critical thing though, don't confuse a price softening with a buyer's market. It's not. Listings remain historically low, supply is still structurally broken, and the softer prices are concentrated in expensive areas that first home buyers could never afford in the first place. Pause for a second, because I want to challenge something you've probably heard from every property spruiker on the internet. Buy now before it's too late. That advice has been wrong, or at least wildly oversimplified for a decade. Here's the number that reframes everything. CoreLogic says it now takes the average Australian 11 years to save a 20% deposit. In Sydney, it's longer. If buy now means stretching into mortgage stress to catch a market at the top of a rate cycle, that's not advice. That's noise. Point 2. The $159,000 deposit problem. Let's talk about the deposit. The average first home buyer deposit in Australia is now $159,000, up 50% from what it was in 2020, according to money.com.au. That's not because buyers got richer, it's because prices went up and the math got brutal. For Jordan in Brisbane, a 20% deposit on a median Brisbane dwelling of around $893,000 means he needs $178,600. He's got $62,000. He's not even halfway. Even if he saves $2,000 a month, which is genuinely hard in a city where rent alone can run $600 a week, it'll take him another 5 years just to hit the deposit target, by which time the target will have moved. Now, here's where the government steps in, and this part is actually worth paying attention to. From 1 October 2025, the First Home Guarantee Scheme was dramatically expanded. There are no longer annual caps on places. Income limits have been removed entirely. Any eligible first home buyer can now access a loan with just a 5% deposit, no lender's mortgage insurance, with the government guaranteeing the remaining 15% in the lender's eyes. For Jordan, that means instead of needing $178,600, he only needs $44,650 to get in. He already has more than that. There's also the Help to Buy scheme, which launched in December 2025. Under this one, the government actually co-purchases the home, contributing up to 40% of the price on a new build. On an $800,000 home, that's a $320,000 government contribution. Jordan would only need to save $16,000 and borrow $464,000 instead of $784,000. Monthly repayments drop by roughly $1,000. So why isn't everyone doing this? Because these schemes come with trade-offs. With Help to Buy, the government owns a stake in your property. When you sell, they get their cut of the capital gain. And the scheme is only available through 2 lenders right now, Commonwealth Bank and Bank Australia, with Housing Australia still expanding the panel. It's powerful, but it's not simple. Point 3. The supply crisis isn't going anywhere. Here's what makes the Australian housing market fundamentally different from most markets in the world. The problem isn't just demand. It's a structural supply failure that both major parties have acknowledged, and neither has solved. In 2025, only 128,924 dwellings were completed nationally, according to ABS data. Australia needs around 240,000 new homes per year to keep up with population growth. We're building barely half that. The National Housing Accord promised 1.2 million new homes over 5 years. The Housing Australia Future Fund was supposed to deliver 30,000 to 40,000 social and affordable homes. The actual number delivered so far? About 5,000. Meanwhile, national rents have surged 42.9% over the past 5 years, adding roughly $204 per week to the median rental cost. Households are now dedicating a record 33.4% of their pre-tax income to rent, according to Cotality's analysis. Rental vacancy rates hit a historic low of 1.4% in 2024, and while they've nudged up to 1.8%, that's still well below the pre-pandemic average of 3.3%. What this means for Jordan and for you is that even if prices soften in 2026, the underlying floor is solid. Banks won't lend recklessly. Developers won't oversupply. Population keeps growing. The crash that people have been predicting for 15 years keeps not arriving because the fundamentals don't support one. ANZ research put it bluntly: widespread falls in housing prices are unlikely given the structural tightness of the market. That's cold comfort if you're renting and saving. But it's important context. So let's do a quick check on where we're at. Rate cuts came, rate hikes followed. Prices in Sydney and Melbourne are easing. Supply is broken. The schemes to help you have genuinely gotten better, but they come with strings. And the median price nationally is sitting around $910,000. Now, here's the part nobody's talking about. Point 4. The trap inside the government schemes. I want to be very clear. The expanded first home guarantee is a genuinely useful tool. Getting into the market sooner, avoiding LMI, not waiting a decade to save a full deposit, there's real value there. But there's something economists keep flagging that isn't making headlines in the mainstream property media. The lobby group Lateral Economics, writing for the Insurance Council of Australia, estimated that the Help to Buy scheme could cause an overall price increase of 3.5% to 6.6%, and in lower-priced areas where first home buyers actually buy, up to 9.9%. Think about what that means. The government introduces a scheme to make housing more affordable. The scheme increases demand in the most affordable segment of the market. Prices in that segment go up. First home buyers who don't get a scheme spot are now priced out of the very area they were targeting. This is not hypothetical. Eliza Owen, Cotality's head of research, told the ABC that anticipation of the scheme had already contributed to price surges in the lower end of the market in September 2025, before the scheme even launched. Domain's forecast suggests the expanded schemes will bring 20,000 additional buyers into the market in 2026. That's 20,000 new bidders chasing the same limited stock in the $500,000 to $900,000 bracket. What does this mean for Jordan specifically? If he qualifies for Help to Buy, which he does, since the income cap is $100,000 for singles, he gets a genuine leg up. His repayments drop. His required deposit drops to $16,000. But if he doesn't move quickly, the other 19,999 people behind him will push up the price of every property he's looking at. The window of opportunity created by these schemes may be shorter than people think. Alright, here's the part people aren't expecting. Everyone's having the wrong argument about Australian housing. The debate is always framed as buy now versus wait for the crash. Team Buy Now says prices always go up. Team Wait says the bubble will pop. Here's what the data actually says. In 2026, neither side is right, and both sides are ignoring the one metric that matters most: serviceability. Not the price of the house, how much of your income you spend on the loan. CoreLogic's own data shows that new mortgagees are already spending an average of 50% of household income on loan repayments. The standard measure of housing stress is 30%. We're running at 50%. A Sydney nurse earning $2,011 per week before tax would spend 76% of their income on repayments for a median Sydney house. A retail sales assistant, the most common occupation in Australia, earning $71,350 a year, cannot affordably repay a house or unit in any Australian capital city. Not one. So the real question isn't will prices go up or down. The real question is, can you actually service the debt without destroying your quality of life? And this is where the math changes completely depending on your city. If you're in Sydney targeting a house, the current median is $1.1 million and you're earning $105K. The numbers don't work with a standard loan. Full stop. But if you're looking at a Brisbane unit in the $550,000 to $650,000 range, with the first home guarantee, a 5% deposit, and a dual income household, the monthly repayment starts to look less insane than your rent. The twist is this: the housing crisis is not uniform across Australia. It is catastrophic in Sydney. It is extremely difficult in Melbourne. It is hard but navigable in Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth, particularly for buyers using the new schemes and targeting units over houses. The smartest first home buyers in 2026 aren't asking, when will prices fall? They're asking, what can I actually service? And which market gives me the best shot at doing that without gutting my life? That's a completely different question, and it leads to completely different decisions. So let's land the plane with 3 things you should take away from this video. 1. The rate environment has shifted again. The RBA is back at 4.35% after fully reversing the 2025 cuts. ANZ is forecasting small price falls in Sydney and Melbourne in 2026. That's not a crash, it's a softening. Don't mistake a 1.7% fall for a once-in-a-generation buying opportunity. 2. The government schemes are genuinely more powerful than they've ever been. No income caps, no place limits on the first home guarantee as of October 2025. Help to Buy launched in December with a 2% deposit option and government co-ownership. These tools are real, but they will increase competition in the affordable segment. So if you're eligible, moving quickly matters. 3. Stop anchoring on price. Start anchoring on serviceability. Run the actual numbers on what 95% of a given property costs you per month at today's rate of 4.35% and see if that leaves you with enough to actually live. If it does, that's your green light. If it doesn't, no amount of property optimism changes the maths. For Jordan, Brisbane units in the $580,000 to $650,000 range, using the first home guarantee, look serviceable on his income right now, not comfortable. Not without sacrifice. But serviceable, that's the conversation worth having. Here's the question I want to leave you with. If you knew for certain that prices in your city were going to be flat or slightly lower for the next 2 years, would you buy now or wait? And what would actually change for you if you did? If you want to understand how the RBA's next rate decision could affect your borrowing power down to the dollar, I've got a video that breaks that down with a simple calculator anyone can use. That's the next one worth watching. And subscribe not because I asked nicely, but because this channel covers Australian property and personal finance without trying to sell you anything. No mortgage broker affiliate links, no developer referrals. Just the data and what it actually means for people trying to buy their first home. That's a rarer thing than it should be, and it's worth having in your feed. See you in the next one.